Hi, I'm Rick White with Alpine Optics, and I want to talk to you today about the new Alpen Shastridge binoculars. Now they're lighter than the older Shastridges, new sleek design, fog-proof, waterproof, BAK4 prisms, phase-coated, and the lenses are multi-coated. Inexpensive pair of binoculars with great quality. So if you're looking to save a little money, but still put quality in your backpack, make sure you check out the Alpen Shastridge binoculars. You know, here we are midsummer here in Iowa, and I'm just out doing some scouting, glassing deer, kind of taking an inventory of what I've got, and doing it from a distance. I've got one of the new Alpine spotting scopes. It's a 20 by 60, but one of the things I really like about this, it comes with a tripod, and it's got micro adjustments, so it's real easy to zoom in and move around and find those animals. But basically, this is a great tool to help me manage the farm all year round. If you're looking for a great way to do some scouting, do it in the evening from a distance with a nice spotting scope. Hi, I'm Rick White with Alpine Optics, and I want to talk to you today about the new Alpen Shastridge binoculars. Now they're lighter than the older Shastridges, new sleek design, fog-proof, waterproof, BAK4 prisms, phase-coated, and the lenses are multi-coated. Inexpensive pair of binoculars with great quality. So if you're looking to save a little money, but still put quality in your backpack, make sure you check out the Alpen Shastridge binoculars. Well, I'm out doing a little bit of late evening scouting, just looking for deer and waiting for them to come out into the field. But I've got a new pair of Alpen Teton binoculars. You know, a lot of times people will ask me, what binoculars are best in low light situations? Well, that's simple. The answer is the Alpen Teton binoculars. And the reason for that is they have the Abbey Koenig prism, which simply means it allows 94% of available light to get through these binoculars, making them an excellent pair of binoculars in low light. So if you're looking for a pair of binoculars that will see detail into a dark timber right now, this time of the evening, make sure you check out the Alpen Teton binoculars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, here's some deer coming out right now. Let's talk a little bit about Alpen and Bresser optics. Now they have a full line of optics, but what I want to talk to you now about is rangefinders. They have several different varieties of handheld rangefinders and the new bow rangefinder. Now for you bow hunters, you go ahead and sight in at 20 yards and you calibrate it to your 20-yard pin, and when you're at full draw, whatever you're pointing that 20-yard pin on an object, it'll tell you the yardage. So whether you like a handheld or you want to put one on your bow, we have both options for you here at Alpen and Bresser Optics. You know, good optics are a must for a hunter. The new Alpen Tetons. They're lighter, they're better in low light, excellent glass. You'll be hard pressed to find that glass for under $1,000. Everything that you would want in a pair of optics. I know what I'm looking for, and once I know what I'm looking for and find what it is, that's what I'm interested in buying. The bottom line is they're affordable, they're lighter, and they're great in low light. The new Alpen Tetons. Another deer coming out. Let's talk. You know, here we are midsummer here in Iowa, and I'm just out doing some scouting, glassing deer, kind of taking an inventory of what I've got, and doing it from a distance. I've got one of the new Alpine spotting scopes. It's a 20 by 60, but one of the things I really like about this, it comes with a tripod, and it's got micro adjustments, so it's real easy to zoom in and move around and find those animals. But basically, this is a great tool to help me manage the farm all year round. If you're looking for a great way to do some scouting, do it in the evening from a distance with a nice spotting scope. And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Hunt with Alpine Optics. I'm your host, Rick White, and I am all the way down here in South Georgia on a deer hunt, and we're doing this live right here in the truck. And my guest this evening is Mr. Lance McCutcheon, and we've got another weekly special at the end of the show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. Welcome back, everybody, and once again, welcome to tonight's show On the Hunt with Alpine Optics. And like I said, I'm down in South Georgia, and we are running from the truck. So this is as live as it gets, and hopefully we don't have any glitches here. So, but anyways, let's jump right into the show. My guest this evening is Mr. Lance McCutcheon. Lance, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well.
Good. Now I don't know, just throwing this out there, but you're echoing just terrible. I don't know if that's going to be the way that it's broadcasting or not, but there's a terrible echo. You still there?
Yeah, the echo's on.
Bad echo.
Yeah. The echo's on our end. I'm working.
Okay. Well, anyway, I can't understand anything, so I'll just keep running with it and hope that it's not broadcasting that way. But Lance, tell the folks a little bit about yourself. We've had you on the show once before. I know that a quick history, a little bit.
Lance used to work at the factory, Alpen ProStaffer factory, or at the office, I should say, and then pursued some other interests. And now he's back, and we're glad to have you back. But tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I worked for Bressler for about 7.5 years, and then I went on to a different business for a little while. Still stayed on the pro staff team, still helped out, still helped with designs, and still helped with customers. But things just didn't work out at the other place, so now I'm back. Official start date is actually November 1st because I've got a hunt coming up in about a week. So we're going up with Jordan in northern Missouri.
Okay. A little glitch going on. I could see you're moving your lips, but I heard absolutely no audio. So I don't know if I'm talking over you or I'm not really sure. But Paul, can we get a little audio check maybe and make sure we don't have any? I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, I'm trying hard to get the echo to go away.
Okay, I don't have an echo anymore. So maybe we're good to go. Lance, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Yeah, I'm trying hard to get the echo to go away.
Lance?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right. Again, some audio glitches going on here evidently. We got anything worked out, Paul?
We can hear you just fine. We can't. He can't hear us at all. We're trying. This is. Wow. Everybody can hear you. Everybody can hear you.
Okay, I got you now, Lance. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I'm not hearing you very good, but I hear you in the distance. And maybe the folks are hearing it. So let's keep moving along and just hope that they are. And if there's any issues, maybe Paul can work on them as we go. But
yes, sir.
Lance, we had you on the show once before, and we talked a little bit about this. But you being a tech guy, you probably know more about optics than anybody else that I talk to on a regular basis. And you know, people are always asking me, you know, whether it be scopes or binoculars, you know, or rangefinders, what scope do I put on what gun? You know,
sure.
What power binoculars and how much do I spend on a pair of binoculars and all those questions. Can you kind of sum it up a little bit on, if you're out shopping for optics, what you might want to look for so that you can fit those optics to your needs?
Yeah, sure. So starting out, you know, you always want the brightest optics no matter what, because that's going to help you when it gets late in the evening or in those early mornings. Magnification is for distance. So the people that hunt out west, the people that are going to take a lot longer shots, you know, they're going to want more magnification. So we'll start off with like what kind of a rifle scope you would want to use. The one I have in front of me is a 2.5 to 14. It's got a low end of 2.5, which is 2.5 times the distance closer to you. And then at 14, that's really, really high power. So it's 14 times closer to you. That's more for longer distance shooters. And I usually try to match a rifle scope with the bino that I use. So if I'm using an 8 power bino or an 8 magnification bino, then I want a rifle scope that's going to be relatively close to that. For the out west guys, they're going to be using spotting scopes that see a lot further. So you're going to want that magnification to bring something in. We can go over like why you would use certain rifle scopes and what parts to look for. And I just want to go over a little technical terms. The part that you look through with your eye is called the objective. And the opposite end, which is what you look at an object, that's the objective end. So the ocular end and the objective end of a rifle scope. The objective end is basically the size. So if it's a 50 millimeter or 54 millimeter or 30 millimeter, that's the size of the aperture or the objective end. The bigger that is, the brighter it is. And you want to match that with your bino. And that way, everything kind of looks the same when you switch from a pair of binos to your rifle scope. And then as far as like choosing a rifle scope for a different weapon, really, it all depends on your distance and what you're shooting. I'm sorry, what was that?
Our lag for Rick is really long right now.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was that?
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, I have to apologize, guys. I'm not hearing one word of anything that's being said, so I don't know if when to jump in and when not to. So anyways, if you could just take over and keep talking.
Yes, sir.
So we're just gonna take over, and thank you, Rick, very much. We'll figure it out on
Paul,
the
what do we
back
got
end.
going on here? Can you tell me if we got an issue or?
Wait, I don't know where the echo's coming from. It's coming from somewhere on your link. So until we figure that out, there's nothing we can do about yours. We could just take it over for you, Rick. I don't know where the echo's coming from. It's coming from somewhere on your link. So until we figure that out. Anyway, so
All right. Well, you guys got it because I'm not hearing a word you're saying.
yeah. So it looks as if though we've got the questions that I have, because I'm not really a hunter, but I enjoy my guns, right? The questions that I have is there specific ones for different applications?
Sure. Yeah, so like on the rifle scopes alone, you do have to match like the caliber of your gun is going to have a recoil. And you don't want to buy too small of a scope to go on a gun that has heavy recoil. I can't say for all brands, but I know for our brands, pretty much everything that we sell is for up to a 50 cal BMG, which in other words, it would handle the recoil up to a 50 cal BMG. So you could really and truly put this on anything 50 cal BMG and lower. Now there's rifle scopes that we do sell that are 22 related, so it's basically made for that specific gun. Then again, the magnification portion of it is where you're shooting and what's the distance that you're shooting.
So, like, if we're out in like Sierra Nevadas,
yep,
you're going to want a bigger scope.
You do.
A
you
longer
want more
one.
magnification.
But if we're shooting here in Arkansas, we don't need all that.
Nope, you don't. You could. I even run on my muzzleloader. I actually use a 1:4, which is a 1 magnification up to a 4 magnification scope. It's nice and light, and I can't really ever get a shot over about 100 yards is almost my max in the woods. And that's just kind of the way it is. I know that Mike McDonald over in Kentucky, same thing. I mean, they just got really dense woods, and you just don't have a lot of distant shots. But you got guys like Jason that's out in California, and he's got shots that he could shoot 400 or 500 yards, no problem. And they benefit from a rifle scope that's got a lot more magnification. Same thing with a spotting scope. Those guys out west are going to use spotting scopes a lot more than we do. We use spotting scopes a lot here for sighting in your rifle. You shoot at 100 yards or whatever you want to sight your gun in. So those spotting scopes we use here for that, so you don't have to walk back and forth to see where you shot. But they use them out there religiously for like actually watching the animals move from one mountaintop to another mountaintop, and they're going to be taking those longer shots. And we just don't have that advantage here.
So because I do cameras and things like that, and that's kind of my hobby. You end up getting folks that get kind of gear. All they want is to buy the best gear, more gear. Is that a thing inside of the optics?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the main advantages is it is going to get more expensive when you get into like the ED optics or the enhanced dispersion glass, which these are the Rainiers. These are 8x42 Rainiers. They have ED glass, and they're going to be super, super bright and super, super clear. So the better the glass, the clearer your picture is. Same with cameras. The better your lenses, the better your picture is, better picture quality. It's actually the same with a rifle scope as well. We don't do a lot of ED rifle scopes, but it's all inside here. The lenses inside here are very important. The outside lenses are really just glass to keep any debris from getting on the inside. But even with the rifle scope, it works just like binos. The more expensive the glass is, the better your vision is going to be.
So I do have a question that I've been curious about. Now we've got hunting seasons. Now, are they staggered? Are the I'm just help me out here a little
Sure.
bit because I'm
All states are a little bit different. There's some states that have like in Arkansas, we start in about September and we go until February on just deer season. Now we have other seasons that kind of light up. Turkey season's always in the spring, but other states have different seasons and different times of the year. So I know in our season from September, that's the late season, which means it's going to get darker quicker. So that's another advantage to having those larger apertures, which is the objective end that it makes things brighter.
So what are
EV
you doing
glass
right
does the
now
same thing.
for your deer? Well, how are you because Arkansas, we talk about a lot of Iowa,
Yeah.
Kentucky, places like that, and Indiana,
Yep.
but we don't have a lot of Arkansas folks on here, and
Nope.
curious, right? I mean, I'm curious. What's the different? How does it differ? Obviously, it differs from Iowa because Iowa is
Yeah.
shotguns only. You can't use
Yes.
a rifle. So, how does it differ for baiting and things like that for here? And what's your particular setup that you really enjoy using?
Yeah, I love hunting from tree stands. It doesn't matter if I'm using a gun or a bow. I'm a huge bow hunter. So I use a bow and a rangefinder like all the time. I get up in tree stands and range each one of my trees around me so I know if that deer's moving into that area. As far as setups go, we look for trails. We always look for pinch points, which are where deer are going to come into from bedding areas to feeding areas. And when you find those points, it's like a travel route that they always go on. Deer mark their territory as well too, so you can find their trails and find where they mark pretty quickly, and that's pretty much any state. If you get out west, like where Jason comes from, they've got wide open plains, so they don't get that as much. Here we have deer will mark trees. They'll mark underneath trees. They'll do scrapes and then they'll do rubs. So we watch for those and we look for those, and then we find the trails and the routes that they're taking from bedding areas to feeding areas, and we try to get in between those two areas because they'll either hit them in the morning or they'll hit them in the afternoon. Now
we have a audience here that's listening to us, and Lars Erickson, he has a predator question.
Yeah.
And what do you recommend on an AR for coyote hunting?
Oh, this is an awesome question. So I'm not the biggest predator hunter, but Ryan is. He's another part of our pro staff team. And so me and Ryan do predator hunter a lot, and we use low power because like a 1-4 or a 1-6. I know we have a 1-4 in our Bresser line, and we have a 1-6 in our Alpine line. What's great about a 1-6 or any type of a 1 power to whatever magnification you want to get, the greatest thing is if you put it on 1, you can leave both eyes open and be able to follow the animal on a run. Coyotes will come in, but they tend to be skittish. So they'll take off and they'll just take off running. And if they do take off running, that's where the AR comes in really nice and handy because you have a few shots and it is semi-automatic. So you can take those running shots with a scope like that because you can leave both eyes open and follow it almost like a red dot. But then if the coyote is sitting still and he's not moving at all, you just zoom up to like a 4 power or 6 power. And now you can zoom in and take a really, really good shot on that coyote.
Nice. Now, coyotes they're not on like any endangered species list or anything like that.
No, coyotes are a nuisance animal in the state of Arkansas. They're nuisance animals in most other states as well. They need to be controlled because Arkansas used to be one of the largest quail population states in America. We had a huge quail population, and our predator hunting has gone down and down and down. So if we don't hunt those predators, we're actually hurting other populations like rabbits, turkeys. You really do hurt a lot of other animals. And of course, coyotes can carry diseases as well. So it's really good to keep those populations controlled.
Now, Brian Caston, he has a question. He says, what kind of mounts do you recommend for your...
Sure. So here's a really good thing. So this rifle scope right here actually comes with mounts. You do have to know the size of the tube diameter. Typically, it's either 1 inch or 30 millimeter. There are a couple of larger ones like 34 millimeter that it's out now. But this one specifically, this is a 30 millimeter. You can do so a low profile mount, which means you want the front end or the objective end to be really close to your barrel. That's perfectly fine. You can do high-rise mounts, which actually put your scope further away. And the reason you would do that is because some people still like to use their iron sights. Well, with the high-rise mounts, they have a cut through, and you can still look through underneath the rifle scope and use your old iron sights. They have what's called, for ARs, they have what's called a set forward mount, which actually, this is where your chamber would be, and it actually sets the scope forward. And the reason for that is because your stock can collapse. And if your stock collapses, I mean, your eye is going to be closer, so you want to push that scope forward. And that's
the black eye syndrome.
The black eye syndrome, yeah, exactly.
Everybody
We call it getting kissed.
Now, John Dallas says, can you explain the difference, and forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, can you explain the difference between a mill reticle and a BDC and how both work?
Sure. So mill is pretty much across the board. Even a BDC is still mil spec. A mil spec is actually a military spec for MOA, and MOA is called minute of angle. And what that means is, let's just use the basis one. The basis one is, for most rifle scopes, is 100 yards is whatever your turrets, and most of them will actually say on the turret what it is. And it's either 1/8 or 1/4. That's pretty much standard. So each click that you move, when you click this and you hear that little click, at 100 yards, it is 1/4 of an inch. So when you're sighting in your rifle scope at 100 yards, then you can actually use that 1/4 inch click, which is an MOA, a minute of angle, and that means it's going to move 1/4 of an inch up and down, left and right, or windage and elevation. Your 1/8 inch is the same thing. It just moves 1/8 of an inch. Now, you got to remember, if you're going to sight it in at 25 yards, now this right here becomes 1/32. It's not 1/4 anymore. This is 1/4 at 100 yards. And that's what minute of angle actually stands for. Everything is done at 100 yards down. So if you're sighting it in at 100, then you can use the actual numbers here. If you're sighting it in at 25, you got to remember it's going to take 4 times as many clicks to do the same thing as it would at 100 yards.
Okay, cool. So now somebody like me, if we had some folks on there that I do duck hunting, I can pretty much tell you 75-80% of what you need to know about duck hunting. And I do, I'm in my youth, I've won skeet shooting champions and ships and stuff like that. But somebody like me transferring over to, if I wanted to go like turkey hunting in the spring for Arkansas, right?
Yep.
Or go to another state. What are the first thing that I need to do? What do I need to pay attention to?
2 things. So one, the choke on your gun. The choke on your gun is going to differ from the chokes that you would use for skeet shooting. For turkey, you want a really, really tight pattern, which means a really extra full choke. And some duck hunters use them. But for turkey, you're not going to use steel shot. Duck hunting, you use steel shot. For turkey, you're still going to use lead, or if you want to spend a lot of money, you can use like tungsten.
Now, what's the difference between, obviously we use steel shot because we don't want to contaminate the water with the lead.
Yes.
But it doesn't have any benefit for that. I mean, it's going to rust and whatnot, isn't it? I mean, wouldn't it just be okay to use the steel shot?
You can, but steel is much lighter than lead. So it doesn't travel nearly as far, and it doesn't penetrate nearly as well. That heavier lead will actually penetrate, a turkey's head a lot better than a steel shot. I mean, you could potentially shoot one with steel, but it would be really hard to get one unless it was really close. There's guys that are shooting 50 and 60 yards, which is awesome. I think it's really cool that guys can shoot that far with a shotgun. But with steel, there's no way. I mean, you just wouldn't be able to penetrate.
Wow. So now in the decoys, I've seen Rick use the decoys and whatnot, and those are we use decoys a lot in the ducks, but comparatively between the two types of hunting, I mean, you use a blind for both, I guess. Yeah,
it's great to use a blind for turkey hunting simply because turkeys see so well, just like ducks do. And if you make one little movement out there when you're turkey hunting, I mean, you can get busted really quick and then they're gone. So when you're using a blind, it gives you a little bit more freedom of movement and a little bit easier hunting especially for bow hunters. You know, when you're trying to pull a bow back on a turkey, that's very difficult to do. So a blind is a godsend.
Yep. Well, I do know the duck blind. When I was growing up, those old cats they would sit in there and drink brandy for the most part. You don't do that anymore. Don't do that anymore.
No. Duck hunting is definitely a lot of camaraderie. Turkey hunting is usually 1 to 2 people in a blind, and we still talk and everything, but we got to be a lot more quiet because they are usually on the ground or in the trees, pretty close to you. Sometimes, sometimes you're setting up within 30, 40 yards of them, and they come down out of those trees. So you have to be pretty quiet.
So one thing I've always kind of wanted to go do is to like predator hunt. Mm-hmm. Have you been? And what have you gotten? I would be interested to see what you've chased down.
Yeah, bobcats. I've never actually hunted like mountain lions or anything like that. Large predators. But coyotes and bobcats are pretty serious predators here in Arkansas, and they take out a lot of our populations of like I said before, quail, rabbits, turkeys and stuff like that. So I try to hunt them every year.
That and the pigs, they seem to be everywhere anymore.
Yeah, our hog population is just growing and growing and growing.
So I got a question from Jordan Dean. He says he wants to hear about your opening day double in Missouri 2 years ago at WCO.
That was me and Jordan. So it was a really, really good turkey hunt. We hunted in a blind and got to see a tom about 60 yards away from us, and he didn't come up over the hill, so he didn't see our decoys. And that turkey just kind of kept going. And then the owner of Wablo Creek, Steve, he showed up, and we were getting out of the blind and putting our stuff up, and he walked over to the hill, and then he motioned us over. So we grabbed our guns, we walked over to the hill, and sure enough, I know there was 3 toms, and I think there might have been like 1 or 2 jakes and a couple of hens down there too. So we set up, Jordan set up behind me, maybe 10 yards behind me, and started calling, and they came straight up the hill. I made Jordan very nervous. I'm one of those people that when I have an animal in front of me, I don't tend to shoot quickly. I enjoy the moment. I enjoy the moment that is there. I enjoy seeing it. And then, so I waited for just a really, really good shot, and I took the shot. My turkey fell. And then as soon as it happened, I didn't move at all. The other 2 toms basically jumped up, flew right back down, and Jordan shot his too. And then that was my first turkey in Missouri at Wablo Creek, and also it was my first double-bearded bird. So that was a really cool trip.
Nice. So, all I know is duck hunting. So, we can talk ducks. If you know ducks, I can talk ducks. I really haven't done anything else. Again, duck hunting's kind of easy, really. But
it is and it isn't. It's definitely changed over the years. Arkansas used to be the duck capital of the world, but it seems like a lot more people up north are hunting more and more ducks and geese up there. So they're a little gun shy, a little call shy when they get to Arkansas, or by the time they get to Arkansas.
And for a while, all you could, the flyways going through Texas. Yeah. It completely moved out of Arkansas for a while. My family is from Stuttgart. Yeah. So that's the reason why have done the ducks, because we're from there. But I was always interested in doing turkey stuff, but the only turkeys I've seen up here in Northwest Arkansas are really scrawny.
Our turkey population was pretty lousy there for quite a while, but through management and Arkansas Game and Fish, they did a fantastic job, and our turkey population has gotten more and more. And I think the last one that I killed in Arkansas was right at around 19, almost 20 pounds. Decent bird. It was about 11-inch beard. And actually, I doubled that day as well with Ryan. I took Ryan and got him his first turkey, and we doubled that
day. So they're having a conversation without us on the chats. So I'm sitting there reading this, and I don't have a preloaded set of questions. So I'm just trying, I'm just sitting around just like, hey, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do there? But I guess now we do have the rangefinder. Is that right?
Yes. So this is the rangefinder that they're going to do the sale on. This is the LR625. It'll read out to 800 meters, which is a little over 800 yards, about 895 yards is what it's maxed out at. It's nice and compact. It's really, really like easy to fit in your hand, easy to fit in your pocket. I use this when I'm bow hunting. I also use this when I go target shooting. We've got a couple of 3D ranges here that I take the rangefinder out with me all the time. I also use it to sight in my gun. I'll shoot 100 yards and then we'll set a target up at 200 or 300 yards, and it's really, really nice to not have to try to measure it out. You just one little click and you know what the yardage is. And with bow hunting, like I said, I get up in my tree stand, and as soon as I get in my tree stand, one of the first things that I do, especially in a new area, I'll be going up in a week and going up and hunting with Jordan. And as soon as I get up into a tree stand, I will hit certain trees or certain spots that if I can see a deer trail or if I can see a couple of trees around me to know what those distances are, simply before I even really start the hunt at all. It just makes it to where I'm not guessing at a deer's distance while I'm out there. I like to take a shot that I'm very comfortable with before I pull that trigger.
Nice. So that's it's only $110. That's 50% off.
50% off, $110 tonight.
And good until Sunday. And this is basically how we keep this show going. Is you guys, we ain't paying. Well, we are paying you today, I guess, but we normally don't pay, our guests.
Yep.
He's up here we have some Christmas stuff coming up, and we need some extra help out in the warehouse. And he's like, okay. And then I'm like, oh yeah, he's here. I'm going to make him go on the camera.
That's fine.
But so I guess use the code on the hunt. And for the LR625 rangefinder, and it's only $110. That's 50% off. Now, that's a pretty decent price, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah. This is an awesome price right now. This is usually almost like a $200 rangefinder. Like I said, it's really small and compact. We do have a couple of different versions. That we do have an LR800, which is a little bit larger tube diameter. It's a 3 tube instead of a 2, and we do have a LR800 waterproof as well. And those are just bigger and bulkier. Some people like those larger diameters. I was also I don't really shoot competition anymore, but I do shoot a lot of bow targets, and I do know that this right here will read black targets even at 20 yards, and that's difficult for rangefinders to do. Black absorbs the lasers, and a lot of times it just gives you no reading whatsoever. But I've got a couple of archery, it's like kids archery teams, and the whole archery team bought our rangefinder simply because ours would actually read on a black target.
Nice. So we have one last question, and then we're going to call it.
Yeah.
All right. What quick connect adapter do you recommend for the binos and spotting scopes?
For binoculars, like you do a quick connect for like a tripod. For tripods, a good quick connect. I think Amazon actually has a pretty good one for binos, and all of our binos actually come with
the little adapter up front of it.
Yeah, it's a 1/4 thread, and there's a bino adapter that adapts to this that just comes straight down, and you can attach that to a tripod. And our spotting scopes all come with that, so you can attach directly to a 1/4 thread on a tripod. As far as the quick adapters go, a lot of the camera tripods actually have that little quick attachment where you just press the lock over and the attachment comes out, and you can actually put those onto either one of those.
All right. Well, Lance, I appreciate it, and everyone here appreciates it, and I'm glad you're able to help us with the show, and I'm glad I was able to sit here and babble about nothing for a while.
No
but
problem.
It's I appreciate you guys watching, and Lance, I guess we'll see you again, maybe.
Yes, sir. Definitely. More and more of me.
All right. Thank you for watching On the Hunt, and we'll see you next week.